Dearest family, one and all, this is the story of how Nick broke his leg at Aspen, Colorado. He was in the city of New York, 1957, just following the IRE show in New York. It had been a little too much, just a little too much, so I decided to go on a week's vacation skiing in the merry and beautiful mountains in Colorado. Please pardon the frivolity of this, but actually breaking a leg skiing is a pretty common thing. And having skied 14 years, the statistics having finally caught up, it's pretty hard to really feel very sorry for yourself, in that it's one of the gambles that absolutely is a part of skiing. In fact, I consider it just lucky that it didn't happen several years ago when things at work were an awful lot tighter and losing some time would have been a great deal more painful. I arrived in Aspen to find that the lift had broken down the week before and all of the usual long waiting line of people had left town, so that the 4 days that I had of skiing were lovely days with no crowds, no lift lines, with beautiful sun, and with 10 feet, believe it or not, of snow at a time when European skiing's been washed out, when Eastern skiing in this part of the country has been washed out. In other words, just the greatest of luck to be in the best place almost to be skiing at the right time of the year. The 4 days of skiing were just absolutely lovely. On the day that the incident happened, I was skiing in a very, very easy place, very pretty but unfortunately wet snow. There were no crowds of people, no trees, rocks, cliffs, no obstructions. It was in the early afternoon, no weariness, and I had just begun to really learn, I felt, to handle the head skis that I bought 2 years ago, which are conventional long skis. I was skiing along rather quietly, not fast, no more than 10 miles an hour, when I gently crossed the tips of my skis and, sort of like a chair falling over, I just gently fell over the front of my skis. When the first passerby came by, we had found, indeed, that I had broken the leg, and incidentally gashed the other leg enough to have 13 stitches in it later on. They put me in the toboggan, and it was quite an exciting ride. You hang head down while they gently lower you down the slope skiing behind. I found it interesting to count bumps, which skiers call moguls, on the way down the mountain, and can report that the mountain at Aspen, from almost at the top down a 3-mile trip, has 265 moguls. The hospital was very nice and very efficient and very accustomed to this. They put me to bed for the night after taking x-rays, and the next morning operated. Both of the Aspen doctors were there, operated, and put together the pieces from a thing called double spiral fracture with about 4 screws, which of course will stay as pins permanently. The tibia or fibula, which also was broken, they let set itself reasonably enough, since then it will adjust itself to its best position. They performed I guess they call it an open reduction, and I feel that if there are any experienced doctors in the world accustomed to doing this, I probably was fortunate enough to have two of the very most pro. The only real problems in the hospital came about from a short and sweet affair with a young ski bum, the parting from which was very sorrowful, and perhaps another problem might have been the dope addiction that one gets from morphine shots and from codeine pills, which is a little bit painful in the getting over of. The hospital was very nice and lots of fun. It's a small hospital built before the turn of the century and abandoned in 1890 when the silver mining industry collapsed out there in Colorado. The next step, of course, was to get home after a week of convalescence. Only a week nowadays, which is really quite surprising. They're very good at healing wounds. I had a wonderful trip back. Everyone was very kind. The airlines in particular, United Airlines, of course, they are awfully nice. They offered me a forklift truck to raise my old carcass into the plane, but that wasn't necessary, and gave me a very prized seat in the plane, so that all told, the trip back, although it consumed taxis and buses and trains and perhaps even a trolley, was very pleasant, perhaps one of the most pleasant interludes since the leg. Since arriving back in Boston, my friends the Ellisons kidnapped me at the airport and whisked me home for the night, and I had a very pleasant but short stay with them. Came home and found a long line of very wonderful visitors who've been dropping in more or less continuously the last few days. At work, I'm getting a wheelchair, a little bit sissy, I'll admit, but certainly going to be a great convenience in getting from place to place and being comfortable. At home, cooking's a little awkward on one foot, but necessity is the mother of invention, and many new ideas, some of which may someday be saleable even, are naturally coming to light on how to manage pots, pans, and dishes, all while standing on one foot. For transportation to work, there are a lot of involvements, but I'm going to sell my little Volkswagen and buy some damn piece of Detroit iron with an automatic shift so that I can drive with one foot a little less recklessly than I would if I had to shift gears. All is well, morale is very high, and there are lots of people here who've all been very kind and very sweet in taking care of this old one-legged man. I have 4 to 6 months, at least, in this cast, which pretty well rules out all summer activities, squash and sailing and tennis and swimming. But I anticipate having a gay time entertaining people and being a little more calm in activities, sitting on yacht club bars and looking across the harbor, and perhaps I'll learn how to play bridge. This whole incident has not really been a terribly unpleasant one. I wouldn't recommend it, but when about another 2 months have passed, I'll be in a better position to report on the pros and cons of breaking legs while skiing. I love you all very much. I'm happy. I wish I were with you. I miss you all. But the friendly and warm town of Boston is taking very good care of your DeWolf male representative up in the cold Northland. Goodbye, everyone. I'll write again soon.